Mike Owens and Inside Fighting here, joined today by Joe Solecki, who returns to action this Saturday night, a little bit earlier than we all expected, and certainly Joe expected, I assume. But good to have you back in action soon, Joe. How are things and how are emotions ahead of your next fight?
Yeah, man, great. Everything's great. We got in yesterday morning pretty early. So on Monday instead of the usual Tuesday, got checked in, all that. Had a little bit of medicals to do today and just checked in with the UFC and got my shakeout, or at least first one for the day, and feeling great. So actually, everything's kind of, I don't want to jinx it, but kind of ahead of schedule. I feel good. So maybe because we had some shorter notice, we checked everything off a little earlier. Everything's kind of in order. So kind of makes the rest of the week a breeze. And there's no real media, like nothing
Mm.
really left. So makes it pretty cut and dry. Just go to work, and that's kind of my favorite part. So
We were talking a little bit off camera there, but obviously a short notice fight. Talk to me a little bit about the process of getting this fight booked and when you actually heard the news and kind of the timeline of getting the initial news to maybe the contract signed.
yeah, I think Tuesday morning to New Year's Eve, woke up, I had my phone on Do Not Disturb, turned it off Do Not Disturb mode, like as soon as I open my eyes, which I usually don't check my phone that quick. And my coach had called me, I think twice, and then texted me and said, call me back. And then I also saw he sent Aliev's Tapology. So I knew right away.
Mm.
And I was like, all right. He said, his opponent fell out. I think because Holtzman manages me, but then he also does it under the Rubenstein and Ruby Sports
Okay.
banner. So I think the original opponent was from that banner, so they kind of knew he was
Mm.
going to be going out. And Danny said that he thought might be able to get us this fight. So it was like, okay, yeah, let's do it. Perfect. And yeah, so then it didn't really change because I've been in a camp for months. A couple short notice fights came down the pike, so just kind of staying ready like that and change. We just changed all the things that I'm always training, but just kind of tweaked the couple things we would do if we had a fight for a couple months. So the routine didn't really change. Maybe a couple different specific sparring partners for the next two sessions, but other than that, just came to the gym and kept working. So didn't hear anything about it further until Saturday morning. That was when we found out it was official. So kind of thought for a minute it might not be happening. And then same thing. First thing Saturday morning, Holtzman texted me, and then I was like, all right, cool, let's get to the gym. It was the last sparring session, and got all the paperwork and then made our arrangements.
So exactly a week's notice, let's say, from when you actually got the official announcement to fight night. So what's the process over the next week of getting you ready? Because obviously you don't have the time to. I know you were saying then about you were staying ready, you were staying in the gym, but you obviously don't have the usual time to prepare in terms of a 6, 8, 10, 12 week camp. So what's the process of getting you ready on short notice?
I mean, so little of our camp anyway is based on the opponent,
Mm.
maybe 10, 15%. So um, I don't know. I mean, yeah, obviously the bigger thing was the logistics of getting here and getting, flights and medicals and all that. As far as preparation, like my body and the shape of it and everything is where I would be for any fight,
Mm.
weight included. So, as soon as we heard Tuesday, I just changed a couple things I would change in my diet about 2 weeks out or 3 weeks out because I was probably eating how I would eat, 4 or 5 weeks out. Because I'm always eating healthy. And then we were in a training camp, so I have to eat to fuel my body properly, and not eat crap anyway. So that's not really my thing. So I was in a camp for about 4 months. I think I did 16 weeks or maybe it was 17 from the first short notice offer to then. So um, I feel as good as I've ever felt. My weight's coming off as good as it's ever come off. The body's primed. And my mind was kind of in a place of a camp too. It was kind of, almost a little more difficult for those months because it kept waiting for things. They kept
Mm.
falling away, falling out. So it's like almost getting frustrated, but like the annoyance of a camp too. So if anything, it was kind of a relief when it came through and we were good to go. It was like, all right, finally, we're going to get to put to work all the work we've been doing. The same thing happened over COVID when I fought Austin Hubbard. I think we ended up doing like 20 weeks or 22 weeks because it was, I don't know how much of the sport you were covering. I know you were watching
Yeah.
back then,
Mm.
but it was like one of those things where no fights, but stay ready because fights are coming back. Okay,
Yeah.
fights are back. Don't know the notice. Get ready. And I think we did like 22 weeks straight, of a fight. Same thing. It was like 12 days notice. And it was like, yeah, okay. And that was like one of the easier weight cuts because my body had been training so long. So I think this is along those lines. I feel fantastic mentally, physically, spiritually. Everything's great. So just happy to be out here and settled and ready to work.
What do you
The NFL season is winding down, unfortunately, but the NFL wildcard games and the playoffs are coming up, and Inside Fighting, we're happy to say, has partnered up with DraftKings, who is an official partner of the NFL. And right now, if you're a new DraftKings customer, you can go download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, bet $5, you'll receive $200 of bonus bets if you use our promo code Inside Fighting at sign up. You can use those bonus bets on same game parlays, or if sports betting is not yet available, available in your state, do not worry about it. Just go play DraftKings Daily Fantasy Sports and get in on the action there. Again, if you're a new DraftKings customer, go download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Bet $5, you'll receive $200 of bonus bets if you use our promo code INSIDEFIGHTING at sign-up. Only at the DraftKings Sportsbook app. The crown is yours.
What do you make of your opponent? Give me a scouting report on him. Obviously, haven't seen him in the cage for a couple of years, so not too much in terms of recent tape study to look at. But give me your overall scouting report on what you'll face Saturday night.
Yeah, I fought the last time he fought, so I remember watching the fight in the back room. So, pretty familiar with him. My coaches watched him a ton. And, of course, I'm getting that information. And I think that's probably a better way to do it, especially on short notice. I'll watch, of course, probably today, just to get a little familiar. But I really want to worry about me. We know what he does well. We know his grappling is really good, his wrestling specifically. He'll wing strikes. He's going to throw hard. And I'm sure he's evolved in the last 2 years. I know he was injured a little bit, but I'm sure he's been putting in work. So you can kind of, know the template of where he's going to be good, but we've got to worry about myself, the things I have to do that we know for a fact he does well. So I've got to, more or less, it's the cheesiest answer in the world, but you got to impose your will and your game plan. And the kind of thing about that is we've had so many different names come across the table and so many different sparring partners the last 4 months. Like I've had to do that with everybody anyway and play so many different styles and so many different game plans that work for my skill set. So it's kind of plug and play, so kind of nice. You get to worry about yourself more than anything else.
I feel like you've kind of answered this question over the last couple of answers, but I'm going to ask you it nonetheless. I guess the question beckons because obviously this is super short notice. You won't have had the time to prepare in the way that you normally will, or I'm sure you would normally like. So why take this fight on short notice? Because it does leave you, it could be argued, with a disadvantage in terms of not having that preparation time.
Yeah, I mean, I think my next fight was going to be short notice regardless. Coming off 2 losses, I think that was kind of the plan, or I'd have to wait a long time, and I'm always training, I'm ready to go, and this is how I make a living. So I want to give those opportunities. And when they come up, we got to jump on them. So as soon as that kind of became the obvious thing, because I think 2 were offered quite a while ago, back in like September, it was just hop into camp and get ready to go and jump on, as soon as something good comes along, we're going to hop on it. And that makes the most sense. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think it's just a great opportunity. And I don't know that it's a disadvantage. If I wasn't training and they call and I'm 182, 180 pounds, and I go, oh, well, I've been a sparring partner, but I'm not in shape to go 3 rounds, then yeah. But other than that, with the preparation I've had, he has the same amount of time to prepare for a change of opponent also, So sure. He also is fighting the same kind of short notice fight. This isn't short notice off the couch. So I don't really see it as a disadvantage like that. If anything, it kind of feels like a little pick me up. I'm not tired of thinking about this guy. I haven't really been thinking about this guy. So especially with my background of competition like that, it's not out of the question to go to a competition and have 4 matches with 4 people you've never seen before, or you're worried about one guy and that guy loses the first match, so now you got a different guy in the final, and it kind of just gets it back to what it's all about. Kind of being at the apex too, it's just the essence of competition, the whole thing. So it feels familiar because it feels like what I've been doing my whole life.
We obviously haven't spoke since the last pre-fight interview you did before your last fight at UFC 302 against Grant Dawson. Just how do you reflect on that fight and how that performance went, and I guess what the key takeaways were from you when you reflect on that fight?
I mean, it wasn't the fight we wanted at all. Mostly for the fact that it just kind of sucked that it wasn't entertaining either. Obviously, that's never my first priority. I'm a competitor. I want to win. But then when you look at the silver linings, like, oh, it was also kind of not entertaining for the crowd, and we were back in my hometown. So it wasn't my favorite fight I've ever had. And it was just a weird matchup, man. I didn't. He had a weird timing on the level changes, and he succeeded every time he got to the hips. He didn't feel different than anybody else I've ever competed against or grappled with or fought. It wasn't some freakish strength or anything. Obviously, we know he's really dangerous. We watch what he's doing to all these guys. But it was just a weird stylistic matchup for me, and I think coming out of that, we worked on a lot of different things, almost a lot of it in my mind, at least. Maybe we didn't talk about it as a team, but like in my head, a lot of these situations I end up in, like in practices and sparring, wrestling with him in mind. Like, oh, could I go back and beat him in those areas now? So you come back right away trying to improve. So that's kind of nice with it. You know what I mean? But other than that, it's fighting at the highest level. Like that guy was on the door of the top 15 and now he's back in there. So, I got to have a short-term memory of that and take the lessons and then let it be after that. That's pretty well.
Talking about the top 15 and talking about the guys at the top end of the division, I have to pick your brains on the title fight next Saturday night in your division between Islam Makhachev and Arman Tsarukyan at UFC 311. Just your initial read on that fight and how you kind of see that one going.
Yeah, I kind of forgot it was happening. Somebody asked me that yesterday, and I was like, man, my head has been so far up my own rear end because I've been in a camp for 4 months, just hoping and waiting and worrying about, am I going to get something? I forgot it was next weekend. Yeah, it's a great fight. I think just the knee-jerk response is Islam because, I mean, I know Arman gave him fits the first time, and he is stylistically a tough fight, but it's just hard to pick against Islam right now. I think even if you watch the Poirier fight, it's one of my favorite fighters, but I think, he had some success on the feet, but Islam was winning. Like, I think it was more so shock factor. We're all grading on a curve because he's so good that if it's even close on the feet, we're like, oh, look, he's going to upset him. It's like, I don't think he won a round. Maybe he won one round. So I think it's just his time. So knee-jerk response is definitely Islam.
If you had to give me a key to victory for each fighter, what would be the key to victory for Islam to have success and the key to victory for Arman to have success?
I mean, I would imagine Arman putting him on his back. I don't think Islam's great off his back. I think he's a great grappler. I'm sure he has a decent game there, but it's not where he chooses to be. I don't know that it's the worst idea for Islam to stay on the feet until he tires him out, So just thinking off the cuff, I think that's probably what I would say.
100%. There is a certain featherweight champion, Ilia Topuria, who is threatening a move up to your division at 155. How do you think Topuria would fit in top of the lightweight division?
I mean, skill-wise, he fits in as good as anybody, right? I don't know how his counter wrestling would be with like Islam, but I guess the question would be how big is he? How big is the size difference going to be? Because he doesn't seem like the biggest guy, his frame or even his height. And obviously, that hasn't mattered at 45, but it would be interesting to see if that would be a problem for him, especially because I feel like Islam's so physical. Jump, and he's also big for the weight class. So now you're talking about a guy that would not be big for 55, I'm sure. Maybe he'd be an average 55er. His skills are tremendous, but that'd be interesting. I think it'd be cool to see. It'd be fun to kind of mix it up. It would be kind of crappy for the guys that are waiting in the wings for that title shot in the top 5, but they've been recycling guys so much that it would be no different than throwing any of the other guys back in there for the title. So I'd like to see it.
We're right at the start of 2025, but obviously 2024, the big debate for fighter of the year was between Topuria and his weight that he did at 145, and obviously Alex Pereira the weight that he did at 205. Who did you label out of those two fighters as your fighter of the year?
I don't know. I never really thought about it. I watched all their fights. It's hard to say. I guess it's not Topuria after beating Volkanovski, who's been so dominant, But man, I guess Pereira's just been so active for a champion. It's hard to. He's at least probably the fan fighter of the year. You know what I mean? Because usually a champion, you're lucky if you see him twice a year. But how many times we get to see him over and over and over again? So his stock probably went up more than anything. So I guess I'd pick Pereira.
We'll turn the conversation back to you for my last question. I think I've asked you this a couple of times, Joe. So you might expect what's coming here, but you can be as brief or as detailed as you like. Give me a walkthrough of your perfect fight day on Saturday night as you envisage it. Morning to night, talk me through what the perfect day looks like.
Go out there and back him up. You know what I mean? I want to land hard shots, keep my feet under me, and unnerve him right away with speed and power. And then as soon as we settle in, if we can get settled in against anybody, I'm going to take me every single time. And I think that's anywhere it goes. If I keep him off my hips, great. If we go to the ground, great. I think I pose a lot of problems there. Anywhere the fight's going to go, The only thing we don't want to do is let him come out and establish, a crazy, wild, reckless game plan right away, right? I just want a fight to unfold, and that would be putting the pace on him for 15 minutes. I think I could do that, and I wouldn't be surprised if I hurt him on the feet, and I would not be surprised if I put him on his back and give him a hard time there. So that would, I guess it's kind of two options. It's not really a perfect fight, but I think the perfect answer is just pressuring.
I love it. Well, Joe, it was a welcome surprise to look on Instagram. I think it was Saturday evening my time and see that your fight was announced. Always good to see you back in action. Have a great and safe rest of camp, and best of luck for the fight on Saturday night.
Man, thanks so much. Great talking with you. I appreciate it.